Welcome back, everybody, to the 2218's Attitude for Gratitude Weekly Live Podcast. Thank you guys for coming back in with us. As always, we're having this podcast from 2218 off First Avenue South in South Minneapolis. This is the place that holds events. This is the place that holds meetings. This is the place that holds podcasts. If you want to come get involved, which I highly, highly encourage you to do, come on down. Come volunteer some time. We got the cleanup coming up here, I believe, next weekend. I will confirm that here later in the show. Young Matthew's going to be putting a link up for us. If you are able to financially donate, please do. If you've got community service hours or know anyone who does, bring them on down. We'll take all the help that you guys can offer. Do you got the vision statement you want to read here in a sec?
I don't have the vision statement.
So, again, 2218. Elena's going to put her number on the thread. I'm going to get my number on the thread. Please utilize those phone numbers if you're looking for information further than what we talk about. I know we had Dan J on talking about membership here at the club. Come be a member. This club will let you become a member if you want. I strongly suggest that, too. It's great for recovery, great for getting connected here in the recovery community. This podcast is interactive. So what that means to you and me is we interact. If you have questions for our guests tonight, post it on the feed, the little where we write comments, questions, concerns. If there's something that I may miss or pass over, write a message. If you don't want your name on there, you can reach out to Elena directly. You can reach out to me directly. And we'll keep it all anonymous. Tonight we've got John B. and John M. on the show. It's going to be a banger like I've been bragging about. So the one thing, though, I do want to really talk about is that this is interactive. This is your show. So if you have ideas or you want us to take certain directions with the show, please reach out personally or reach out on this thread. The other thing is, if you know anyone who could benefit from some recovery, anyone that you think could benefit from some a taste of what we're talking about or anything, share it with them. Really, selfishly, I want you to share it with everyone you know or who you have in your phone. Share, share, share. But other than that, I want to tell you guys about a few things coming up here. Mm-hmm. Down the road, you know what? Let's talk about the big World Star Super Bowl recovery that's coming up.
Gopher State.
There you go. Tell us all about it, Elena.
All right. So Gopher State is Memorial Day weekend. If you want to find some information about that, you can go to gopherstate.org, and you can find out all of the information about speakers. You can get rooms for a discount. You can do all kinds of things right from their website. Gopher State is down in Bloomington. It is an amazing thing. There are thousands and thousands of people in recovery. You will meet new people. You will see old people that you've known for a while. Every Alano in Minnesota is going to, almost every Alano in Minnesota will be there. There will be hospitality suites, food. It does cost money to be there.
What if I don't have money?
Well, hold on, Tim. You're jumping the gun here. Mm-hmm. You can register online ahead of time. Otherwise, you can register when you get there. The registration is for the entire weekend. If you don't have money to pay to be there, it's not a problem. They don't turn any person in recovery away. There is a table there where they will ask you to do a little bit of service work, which service work is an amazing part of recovery. So they will ask you to do a little bit of service work, either greet somebody or do security, stuff like that. And then you'll be able to be there for the entire weekend. There are meetings all day and during the night. So, and there's nonstop food, coffee. I mean, it's everything a person in recovery wants.
I know my Alano that I frequent, besides 2218, I go to New Hope Alano, and we're having ice cream. I'm signed up for a couple hours of scooping out ice cream to whoever walks by. What's Blaine's big thing?
So I'm in charge of all the food and stuff for Blaine, and we are doing donuts, coffee, hot dogs.
Oh,
We have a guy that likes to do hot dogs every year, so we're doing hot dogs. We're doing all kinds of stuff. Blaine Alano also has a bunch of stuff coming up too, which I can talk about later, that for activities and lots of fun stuff, but that's also on our website too.
Cool. So They do a countdown. Did you bring that up?
Yep,
About
they
the
do. They
countdown?
do a countdown for recovery, and it's absolutely amazing.
What is a countdown?
The countdown. Do they do a countdown or a
They
count
do both.
up?
They do both.
They do both.
Okay.
I think the highlights on Saturday, and that's the countdown, right?
So
So we're all standing for that 24-hour guy.
Yep. So we stand. Everybody stands up, and they do a countdown. They start at however many years, and they go all the way down to an hour of recovery to see who has what kind of recovery. And it's a very
Emotional.
yes.
It's very powerful.
emotional to see people that have many years and people that are just coming in. And if you ever go there and you see that one person or even 5 people that have under 24 hours, go talk to them.
Oh, and the place goes complete ape shite, like nuts. Honestly, I had 2.5 months, I think, of recovery at that time of clean time. That was the first time in my recovery I cried. Real true emotions. And it wasn't even for me. It was that feeling in the room because I sat down at, I don't know, 2-3 months, whatever it was, and there was a guy a couple rows over. And I don't know, when you get down to that, you get down there, there's, 1 week, 5 days, 4 days, and people are sitting, and this place erupts. Like, you want to talk about support? That's support in its purest form, and it's emotional. For a guy like me, I lost it a little bit, but it was also one of the best experiences I've ever had, and it has been a great experience. Last year, there wasn't Glover State due to this cold that's been going around, or the COVID, and we had some impromptu. A lot of people every year. You get people that have pre-registered rooms years in advance, so there was still tons of people from out of state, out of country, and we had 2 or 3 impromptu meetings. It was still a good time, but nothing like what's about to occur. So yes, take advantage. And what's the dates again?
The 27th, 28th, and 29th. And I have not checked the website recently if there's still rooms available, but there are hotels around the area that are within walking distance.
Awesome. So the other thing I want to bring up is here at 2218, they do a Ride for Recovery. It's the 4th annual Ride for Recovery. That is coming up on the 25th of June. It's an all-day event. If you're a motorcycle rider, come be part of that ride. I think we still have opportunities. If you want to be a road guard, they will get you trained in to be a road guard, or if you just want to be part of the ride, come get bracelets. Speaking of that, John, don't let me forget I got your bracelet in the truck. You can, I think, save $5 to come by, and they're selling them every night here at the club up until the event, and I think $20 or $25 at the door. We have food, music. Zoo Factor is going to be here. Barbecue. We're going to have a speaker. We're doing a medallion presentation. It's going to be a blast. There's raffles. There's silent auction. It's a day of some real fun. And what was that date of the cleanup here?
Tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow. Shit, come on down. Come help clean up this club, plant some flowers, come do some fellowship. It'll be awesome. How was your week, Elena?
My week was really good. I got a bunch of stuff done. I went to a concert.
I saw that. What concert?
I went and saw Lacuna Coil and Apocalyptica.
Lacuna Coil?
Yes. And it was absolutely amazing. So I have this big thing about instrumental music, and so that's what these guys play, cellos, and they rock out like you've never seen anybody do. Like, they lift them up in the air and they're still playing. They do everything. And I brought my buddy Tracy. You know who Tracy is.
Yep.
I brought my buddy Tracy, and he was like, I was just a last resort. He wasn't. I just didn't think he'd want to go. So I brought my buddy Tracy, and I was supposed to bring my sponsor, but she was out of state for work. And so I brought Tracy with me, and he was in awe with how amazing this music was. I was like, see, Elena knows how to have fun.
Oh, a little ego going on there. Okay.
Yeah. I do have a little ego going on there.
That's good.
I don't just do all recovery stuff. I do go have fun.
Yeah, no. I'm going to block you a little bit. That's not 2 different things.
You know what? Stop.
You preach this every week. That's not 2 different things.
Well, a lot
What
of
you
people
meant
tell
to
me.
say-
A lot of people tell me that I go to too many meetings and I do too much recovery, and I'm always doing stuff with the Alanos, and I'm always doing this, and I never go out and have fun. Well, doing stuff at the Alanos is fun for
There
me.
you go. We're circling
So
it in.
sometimes
There
I
you
go to things like concerts or stuff like that. And then like
Yeah.
tonight, I have a bunch of people messaging me, why aren't you at Minac? I don't have to be part of NA and recovery to saying I have to go to Minac.
Tell him, girl.
You
Yeah.
guys go. Tell me all about it. I've been going
Yeah.
to go for state since 96. I'm
Yeah,
like, come on.
you're good. Yeah, I got a couple of those calls too, and I made the conscious decision not to be going to Minac down in Rochester this weekend.
I don't want to drive that far. I'm sorry.
If the weather was different, I would have rode my bike. I had plans with someone that if the weather was right, we would have rode our bikes, but it just didn't plan that way. So, you went to concert. Work week was good.
Work was good.
Before we move on, I want to know, how has your new job been going? We haven't touched base about that. It's been, what, 3 weeks now? You've been at this new job, career change, not career changing, but you changed from a job you had for multiple years.
Yes.
Kind of stayed in the same field, but now it has some recovery base to it.
Yes.
How's it going?
Work is yeah.
That's not an answer.
So everybody knows I'm not really big, and I hate to say this, but I don't get along with a lot of women.
Hey.
And now I work at a women's treatment center. And it's really hard for me to explain to them the difference. So I'll talk to anybody. If you have a problem, I will talk to you. And we're having a really hard time with boundaries right now where you come to me because I'm the nurse, so I do nursing stuff. I'm not your counselor.
Mm-hmm.
So today I had to set a few boundaries with some people about when they're supposed to come to me and when they're not, because I don't want to listen to you complain unless you tell me of a solution of how you're going to fix it.
Right.
So, but I mean, other than that, I mean, my coworkers are great. I mean, these girls in this treatment, they really, or these women in this treatment really want recovery. So, I mean, I wish them all the best, and I don't hide from them that I'm in recovery.
Right.
So they know.
But then that's where they come to you thinking, with that.
Well,
your
they don't-
background-
they don't
You're
come
there
to-
for medical
they-
attention
yeah.
for these women.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where the boundaries come in, because maybe they want to confide into you about other things because they know you got the same background as maybe they do, or some
Well,
of those
and I'm
things.
okay. If somebody was to come up to me and say, I want to talk to you about recovery, I would sit down and talk to them about recovery. It's the always having a problem and no solution. So if you come to me and you start complaining and complaining and complaining for 10 minutes about what somebody else did, well,
Yeah.
how is that really affecting you?
So
How
that-
is that creating problems in your life? That's what they did. Move on and just go do something else.
Where's the solution?
Yes. So yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, it's really been great.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I know that you took that week off, went out of state, came
I
back.
still
and
wish
did-
I was in Florida.
Yeah, well, and I wish I had a toilet made of solid gold, but it's not in the
Well,
cards,
you
is it?
could if you didn't spend your money on vehicles and motorcycles.
Things I love. They're like my solid gold toilet. So,
How was your week?
week was good. I took an injury at work, but I'm good. That's the highlight of my week, I think, was I got hurt at work. I meant also, is there something I'm missing?
I don't know, but that was the highlight of your
Oh,
week.
yeah. Otherwise, it was a work week.
It's
Got
always
to
a
my
work
regular meetings, my awesome men's meeting I go to. Matter of fact, we did have on Wednesday night at 2229 West Broadway, the Northside ICCM Life Center. We normally have a 6:30 Narcotics Anonymous meeting. It's a meeting JP started. And it's been getting some tread, but this last week we had an event. I think it's called Bold Recovery North, or Bold North Recovery. I so apologize. I'm not saying not knowing the name right offhand, but it was a great event. We watched the documentary. It was very informative, and what I want to say about it is there's a guy named Randy Anderson who he's this founder of Bold North Recovery, or he's the one in charge of it. He's the one who brought this documentary to the meeting, and this has been a planned event. We had a good turnout. Normally we have 10 to 15 people at this meeting if it's a good meeting. There was probably 45 people that showed up. Hope Dealers was there. It was not that normal Narcotics Anonymous meeting. It was an event, and Hope Dealers was there, had a booth set up. Bold North Recovery was there. That's his Randy Anderson. And he's real monumental in legislation and working with on the state and government level of getting bills passed or getting funding for Narcan and things of that nature. I don't want to go too far in depth till I talk to him and I get the facts right. I just know he's doing really good things in recovery right now, and we had a great time. That was Wednesday night. We had root beer floats, we had popcorn, all sorts of sugar. Yeah, it was though. It was really good. And the documentary, yeah, it was sad, but it shed light on the mostly the opioid epidemic type of a documentary. All different angles of it. There was some NFL superstars in there, and then there was just some street people. They were in Portland. They're all over the nation, but to us, it's no secret. We know how terrible that's been with the fentanyl and what have you. But this guy, there's a lady that was going around, and at the time of this documentary, there was a term for it. I say she Narcan someone, but she brought back from an overdose that would have resulted in death by giving them Narcan on the street. At the point of doing this a year and a half ago, she had brought back just under 300 people. Randy had just talked to her last month, and she's at 1,000. That's just one lady walking the streets, looking at people on the curb overdosing.
That is so sad.
That's the facts. And then there's a story of a cop, and I'm going kind of deep. I don't need to, but this last one I talk about this cop who he's very sympathetic to that world, to the addiction side of the world, and he's out there helping best he can, not trying to lock people up, but help them with recovery. But one of the big things he does is he talks to one of these street people, get together all your buddies. He sets up a tent, and he goes and gives haircuts in his cop uniform and does a good job. But it was heartwarming, what have you. So that was Wednesday. That was a good day. Matter of fact, that was the day of my injury. So other than that, week was good. God's good. All that good jazz. Alano. The Alano Society of Minneapolis has a vision statement. That vision statement is to be the premier Alano clubhouse serving the greater Twin Cities that offers support and strength to those who suffer from addiction and their families. Before we get this going, anyone listening, just know you're worthy. You're very worthy. You belong. You're never alone. You don't have to be alone. If you're struggling, reach out. Elena put her number up here. Young Matthew put his number on there. I put my number on here. We can use this for networking. If you're struggling, please reach out. No one's going to know you're struggling unless you speak up. Closed mouths don't get fed. I don't think this is the same situation, but please reach out if you're struggling. So, I think it's about that time, boys. Let's get her going and let's chop it on up. Who do we got in the house with us today?
My name is John. I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome, John.
I'm a member of Squad 20 at New Hope, Alano. Timmy's one of my brothers. It's a Strictly Dickley meeting,
Strictly Dickley. I call it a stag meeting, but
which means that it's a men's meeting.
Strictly Dickley.
6:30 Thursdays. So
Nice. I like that. And next to you, we've got
I'm also John Alcoholic. I also go to Squad 20. Great meeting. Big book study. Fantastic meeting. I was in another meeting for years and years and years, and I came to this meeting just a few years ago, and it's just super in-depth. It really helps. Every meeting is great.
Big book study. I have a line of questions I want to get into with you guys, but of course, already sidetracked. Big book study. What does that even mean? What does that mean, big book study? You guys said it's a men's big book study. What does that mean if I've never been to a meeting and I hear it's a big book study and I walk in? What can I expect at a big book study or Squad 20 big book study?
well, we've got quite a bit of sobriety in this meeting. I heard your podcast last week. You had Mike on, and I remember meeting in room 5 when he first started that meeting 5-6 years ago.
Just pull her up to you. Yep.
They live in a solution, and the solution for me is I'm a guy that needs the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm not a guy that can just go to a meeting and not get thirsty. I can't just do fellowship and not get thirsty. I know these things about myself because I did it for 20 years, and I always got thirsty. So that delusion, Our first step tells us that we have to smash those things that we can no longer do. And I know that about myself. So I go to meetings where I found a God of my understanding, and that's Big Book Studies.
All right. So, John, this is going to be tricky. So, John, if I look in between you and say, so, John, what is,
You could call me Mac.
Mac.
My last name. if
See,
you
I've always
want.
been
It might be
McHugh,
easy. Yeah,
or-
McHugh's fine.
No, let's do this. Let's call him AA Jesus.
AA
Started calling him-
Jesus.
I started calling him AA Jesus because he's an old timer, and I know he appreciates it. The thing about John and being AA Jesus, he turns 24-hour medallions into fish and bread, fifth step tears into wine. That's Johnny.
Oh, I've never heard these attributes.
Lots of wine. Unlimited amounts of wine.
Oh boy. So, John, I'm AA Jesus. Big Book Study. What's that mean to you?
Well, it means that, to me, that we have the patience to take the time to go through the big book paragraph by paragraph and stop. If there's questions, or what happens, that's great, that I'm looking at John because he does that so well, is we might go through a few paragraphs and then he'll speak up and talk about where we are in the book, what we're doing right now in that big book, so we can put it into context of where we are. Are we at the point we've done all the steps, and where are we in our recovery at that moment? Instead of, I don't know. Yeah, that's it.
Was it like, and it's tricky for me to ask these questions the way I'm going to ask them because I'm there with you guys, boots on the ground, we'll say. And I think what you're saying, like, we read, we pick a reader. Now I'm getting really detailed on what we do. We get in there, we pick a reader. In between paragraphs, I always say uncomfortably pause. That way you can share about what was just read. I like the way McHugh or AA Jesus just brought it up, was like you can relate. I mean, there's so many different ways people share in this meeting, and I've been to that. I went to that meeting. I used to go to Squad 11 as a Wednesday night mixed meeting, and Big Dave, I think it was, caught me in the hall, the big area, and said, check out this men's meeting. I'd never been to a men's meeting. We were in room 5 at that time, the smaller corner room, and that first time there, I haven't looked back. I've been ever since. So it was a great fit. But what it was for me was, in between paragraphs, for me, whatever was just read, I could share about how that relates to me in my life, where I'm at in my recovery or my day-to-days. But also, we've got some men, like John was saying, we have tons of recovery in that room. So in a way, and I've always kind of related this to the church, but just bear with me. You get 10 different pastors reading the same verse. You're going to get 10 different versions of what was just read. They break it down and define that verse, that scripture, that same way. Would you guys agree or speak on that, how that benefits in the rooms of a big book study when we pause after a paragraph and you get other people sharing about what was just read? You see the connection I was making there? Talk to me about it. How does that benefit? What's the goods about that?
Well, you've got. This isn't AA Jesus.
Johnny B.
There are men that, yes, they have there's a lot of sobriety in that room, but there's also men that sponsor other men.
Yep.
And these men, like myself, do a lot of that, which means that every time that they take that individual through the program or the all 12 steps, they have another experience. And through that experience, they get closer to the God of their understanding. And God will disclose more to you and to us, right? Every single time that you go through this book. what I thought at day 30 going through this book is quite different than what I believe now.
Right.
Because of the experience of continuing to do that type of work. And, you know, things that I would have fought you early on those beliefs have come to be 100% wrong, which means that even today I have to understand that I could be wrong and be willing to be teachable. And that's what I get through other people's experiences in a big book study and with other men that do that. You know, I could go to another meeting where the book isn't even there, and for me, that is not for me. I can't stay unthirsty doing that, and I know that's what I can't do. That's one of the delusions that had to be smashed for me.
So early recovery was all right, because like you said, you just explained change over time. In your early recovery, was the goal to just plug the jug at that time,
Well, no,
trying to take away the thinking of where you're at today?
I suffered from untreated alcoholism for 20 years.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm a firm believer in the disease concept of alcoholism,
Okay.
which is in the doctor's opinion.
Yep.
It's a hopeless state of mind and body that only a spiritual solution can solve. I believe that today, but I didn't believe that for 20 years.
Okay.
I believed that it was a hopeless state of body, and that if I just quit drinking and go to meetings, that I would stay unthirsty.
So wait, I'm
And
gonna
that
pause.
didn't work.
I'm gonna pause you there. So you thought that the body, not drinking, at that point, you thought that would work, just not drinking at early recovery
Oh, yeah. For 20 years.
for 20 years.
For 20 years. I believe that. You know, anytime that God or a spiritual solution was brought up, I wanted nothing from you.
Okay.
And that is because of an incident that happened to me when I was 18 years old. It was one of my treatments, and I was locked up at the University of Minnesota. And to get out of there, you had to do a fourth and a fifth step, right? And part of my story is that in giving that fifth step, I think I really wanted to get some things off of my chest. And I had a father that put a gun in his mouth when he was 14, and I cut a brother down in a garage when I was 16.
Yep.
Right? And so when I'm 18 years old, I'm sitting in here and I'm telling this man of the cloth, and I'm talking, not A.A. Jesus over here to my right, a different guy. And in his infinite wisdom, he said to me, how are you going to reconcile yourself that your father and brother are in hell? So I stood up. You know, we've got folding chairs here, and we're sitting on folding chairs. I stood up and I punched that man square in the nose and knocked him over.
The man of the cloth.
The man of the cloth.
Yep.
That's exactly right. I know when spiritual principles and God left me, and it was what that man said. And those principles and God, I wanted nothing to do with that because of that one instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
This book tells me to lay aside prejudice, right? Don't look at what a man says. Seek inwards and find God of your own understanding. But I couldn't get that for 20 years. So what happened? I suffered from the bondage of self. You know, those crosses from 18 to 35 got heavier and heavier and heavier. I was crushed by the bondage of self. And it was a slow death.
Kind of explain what the bondage of self means.
Well, the book says we're restless, irritable, and discontent unless we take a couple of drinks, right?
Right.
You know, and we all know what that feeling is, you know?
That deep breath, calming, shoulders dripping. We're not fantasizing. We're just explaining.
No, but it's the truth.
Yep.
And to this day, being an alcoholic, I love that feeling.
Yep.
You know, it's undeniable. I love that feeling.
Yep.
You know, that sense, comfort, and ease that comes by taking a few drinks. But part of that physical allergy that I have that makes me an alcoholic, I also developed the phenomenon of craving, right? And which means that I can't stop. The obsession of the mind starts, and I'm off to the races again,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
And so I put the plug in the jug many, many times, but I never dealt with the stuff that we work from 4 to 9. I needed I needed a higher power to get through that.
Mm-hmm.
And to take the weight of those crosses off of me. And anybody that has suffered from the bondage of self for 20 years, that looked into the pit of hell, looked at this hideous 4 horsemen that the Vision for You tells us about, thinks that death really isn't that bad compared to the way that you feel.
Right.
That's where I was. And the book also says that, you know, my God was reason, right? And
For that 20 years.
oh yeah, yeah.
We're going to get to that mark of when that changed at the end of that 20 years, but not yet.
So I suffered from that bondage of self, which was my problem. And I had this volcano of inner unmanageability that would rear its ugly head, and my only solution was a drink. And for a short period of time, that would subside. But
So the
that's all-
drink was but a solution.
It calmed that volcano of inner unmanageability. And, you know, my life was unmanageable. And, you know, I love First Step meetings. John and I spent many, 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 many Saturdays in a First Step meeting. And when I first started. And, you know, my life, what I thought, felt, and believed was unmanageable. I got very good at going to jail. I could manage that. I got very good at going to treatment. I could manage that. I got very good at going to AA and getting my card signed. I could manage that. Fighting with the wife. All those other things I got very good at
They're
managing.
becoming the normal.
It's normal. So, you know, it's just a repeating cycle, right? So I work with a lot of men, and you know, when we get to the first step and it says powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable, the life that they're talking about isn't the external, it's the internal.
Internal.
And that's what I had to deal with, and that's what I really had to focus on. And, you know, not believing in a power greater than myself. I just had to choose. I just had to choose. And I'm at that phase right now. I'm working with 7 men on a Wednesday, and we're at the phase of the second step, and we agnostics. And you know, I'll do this for you, and I give them a piece of paper, and you get a piece of paper in front of
Yep.
you, Tim, and I say, okay, you've got 1 minute, and alls I want you to do is, you can draw a picture, write a phrase, do something that represents a God of your understanding right now, or something that you wish that your God would be.
You serious?
I'm absolutely serious, because that was mine.
Happiness.
And then I say to him, what does that represent? And I'm looking for an answer, Tim.
Happiness.
Yeah,
Joyous.
it does.
Yes.
It does. The fundamental thing about that exercise is a willingness to believe.
A willingness.
Which is all this second step asks us to do, is a willingness to believe.
So, we're gonna get to you soon enough, AA Jesus. I'm diving in deep here on John
This
now.
is good.
Because when you were on with Melinda, it was kind of tricky. I'm glad the two of you are on together because you know each other really well. We're all
Right.
part of the same meeting. It was a little different with Melinda because it just was. So we're
Oh, I
in the
missed that
present.
night.
Yeah, and you shared a little bit about that 4th and 5th step experience. We didn't get to go into depth just because of the circumstances.
I'm an open book. These things that were debits on my balance sheet are now credits. You know, I walked.
Say that again. Say that again. These things.
These things that happened in my life that were so shameful,
Mhm.
that were disgusting to me, the way that I thought, felt, and believed and behaved. And when you lose your soul, you get pretty protective of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I always hear people, well, you got to forgive yourself and all that. That's a byproduct of doing the steps. That stuff will happen
Mm-hmm.
if you work the steps. But these are things that I would never tell anybody. And I am an open book. There is nothing that I won't tell about my life story, even till today, right? Stuff happens today, and I'm no longer going to carry that cross.
There you go.
Because as soon as I start carrying crosses, they get heavier and heavier and heavier. This is part of that delusion that we have to smash, right?
Mhm.
That powerlessness. Yeah.
I love how he explains it too. So they're credits in his life today, meaning
Oh yeah, they're all credits
yes,
in my life today.
these things that were such a great reason to sit and drink over, or escape over, or go do that foul type stuff to get you outside of self.
Yep.
Nowadays, they're that piece of insurance that you get to take out for your recovery, for your clean time, for your sobriety. It's those debits are now credits.
They are.
I love
and,
it.
And it shows the vulnerability, and you know, I don't have to be shameful of those things anymore. That bondage of self, those
Yes.
things that were my problem. I now have the ability to think straight, right? You know, the book tells us that insanity, defined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, is the lack of proportion of the ability to think straight. It's in there. It's not doing the same things and expecting different results. The Big Book defines what insanity is for us, and that I now have that ability to think straight on those things, and to be vulnerable, and especially with men that are sitting on a fence, right? And to
Yeah.
be able to share these things that are now credits and say, this is what I did, and this is what I got. When I didn't do this, this is what I got. That's my experience of going through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I've done it wrong as well. You go through this book, you're going to do some things wrong. And there are some things that I was unwilling to do, and I paid a price. That's my experience. When I chose to do it the way that the book said, I paid a different price. So regardless of what you're doing, you're going to pay a price. It's just which one are you willing to pay? And I'm no longer willing to pay that price of the bondage itself.
So quickly, the for anyone listening who doesn't know or is not familiar with it, when someone asked the question, making a searching and fearless moral inventory of self is what he meant by the fourth step, meaning he put down all these crosses to bear, all these things he was never trying to say it without going into so much detail about the fourth step, but putting down all these dirty, dark secrets that we talk about. Then the fifth step is when he said those aloud to someone in confidence that, I don't, do you even say won't judge you, because they are there to help point out those character defects too. So when he said the fourth and fifth step is that right there. All those skeletons in the closet came out of his mouth to someone, and that was to a priest, and it's, they say a sponsor, priest. There is, how is it worded? Someone, I'm not sure how it's worded in the Big Book about who you do your fifth step with.
Closed mouth friend.
Yes, someone that you can tell. And typically you hear people talk about it, and someone in these programs, because you think they're gonna clap their hands to their cheek and oh my God, and it's usually, oh, you did that too. One of those situations. The question was, what is fourth and fifth step? That's kind of what it was. So then,
Well, the good news to that is there's meetings to where you can find a sponsor and have that experience.
right.
Right.
Well, and we have Rick and Jesse on once a month.
Yep.
We run through the steps, and I forgot to advertise that too. But every Wednesday here at 2218, they do a fourth-step workshop. I believe it's a 10 or 12-week cycle. They go through it very thoroughly. But they're on. Is it next week or the following week? They're on
They're
in
on
a few
the
weeks.
following week.
Yes.
I have somebody else for next week.
So, yes, that's, reach out to myself or Lena directly. We can get you in contact with what that type of stuff means, a sponsor or finding someone like that. Sorry to sidetrack on that.
Well, let me put it in perspective. I suffered from untreated alcoholism for 20 years, and it boils down to I couldn't get the common solution of a willingness to believe. I didn't want any of that. You couldn't sell me on that. I was a Darwinist, right? I was smart. My God was reason, right? And there were a couple of wise men in one of my deals up in Monticello, and he said, well, I got your God answer, but you're going to sit over there in a corner, and after the meeting, you'll have your answer, right? I was smart. Oh, boy, was I smart. The meeting was over, and they get up and they leave, and I says, hey, what's going on here? I thought I was going to have my answer, and the wise old man said, you just haven't evolved into our way of thinking. And I hated him for that. He turned my God of reason on me, and but I still remember it to today, And this book is going to ask you to do things with that higher power that is uncommon for an alcoholic to do, and uncomfortable for an alcoholic to do. That 4-step. I'm gonna do it on my will. I'm not gonna do it on God's will.
And
it
that's
asks us to pray all throughout these steps, right? So without that God, am I really going to do? And in turning my will over to that, am I really going to do an honest and thorough 4-step?
Yeah.
Am I really going to tell somebody all of my life story without that higher power's help? And in doing so, I'm going to find some things that are objectionable. So now I've got to ask that power that I don't believe in to remove it from.
That's where, and that's where the big hiccup or hurdle could come in for a lot of people if they're thinking the way you're thinking. You know what? Sidestep here is, I'm gonna pound on you in a little bit. We're gonna keep going just on your side, but jump in. Don't hesitate. Jump in if you got something with what we're sharing about. But I'm thinking it's be too tricky for me to try to go back, then come back to this. So, with your 4-step, and you're sharing about, I do want to know how, if it was a spiritual awakening, an experience, what it was that got you to crush what you went through at that 20-year mark or whatever it was. But keep going with this. I want to.
Well, let me finish my thought process as it goes on that. And you do this 4th and you do this 5th, and you find out those people that you have harmed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've already made the list. And now the book tells me that I have to go out and right these wrongs. Not because I want to, because I have to.
For who?
To overcome that hopeless state of mind.
Okay.
I have to.
For self.
It's not that I want to, it's that I have to. So that's God's will for me. So without that power, how can I do any of that?
That power or that belief?
I did for 20 years, but I did it my way.
Without a belief of a higher power.
I did it my way, and I always got thirsty. Yes. I always got thirsty. Yeah.
So let's keep going with it. So then you're doing this for 20 years. You're relapsing or going back out having drinks. Call it what you will. Mm-hmm. You weren't getting it. You weren't happy, joyous, and free. Right?
I'm just say the least.
All right. So let's keep the tape going forward on this. I don't want to steal what Rick says. It's, doing things you don't believe in and getting results that have you starting to believe, or however it's worded. What ends up happening in your story and for your life where this starts turning? You're talking about this encounter with the man of the cloth.
That was at 18.
Yeah, but I mean, that's Rick shared about at 7. He had this problem with, not to go down someone else's story, but one little clip of his life with little Johnny the neighbor being told he couldn't go trick-or-treating because of religious reasons. Yep. Well, 40 years later, he realized that was the reason I don't like God.
Exactly,
I mean,
right.
Whatever the case is.
Yes.
Your story is your story, and your thoughts, they're yours, and they're valid.
Yep.
Your thoughts are valid. Whatever your brain's telling you about this situation, they're valid because they're yours.
Exactly right.
I can't tell you that's wrong. So
that's my experience.
Mr. Jones. So we're going along 20 years, still getting thirsty. how does this even start to change for you? What's the catalyst, or what is it that got you over it? Or I don't even know if I'm wording that right. Where does that change start to occur?
The change occurs after trying everything humanly possible to solve this problem and being absolutely crushed, being in the same position that I was in numerous times and not having anywhere else to go but God.
But it's being told to you throughout this whole 20 years. Your sponsor, your other guys in the meetings, everyone, like you're hearing
Well, of
it.
course, yeah.
And you're even to a point of telling yourself, oh yeah, or were you ever saying I believe, or
Well, no, I was a scoffer, right?
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
One of those.
that's for you, it's not for
Yeah.
me. You know, I mean, a topic is brought up and, you know, after the guys in Monticello told me what they did, I knew that God question was not something that I'm gonna talk about in any more meetings,
Right.
because you're gonna beat me over the head with my God
Your
of
own
reason.
word, yes, your own words.
So, so yeah, I was in a position that I've been in multiple times, but I was finally done. I had enough. Alcohol beat me into a state of reasonableness.
Alcohol beat you into a state of reasonableness. So 20 years of trying, we'll say,
Yep.
giving it a whirl, not wanting to drink, but that's the solution. Doing it your way.
Yep.
Finally throw our hands up and say, all right, well then I believe. I mean, was it that easy? I know some of these answers, but I want our listeners to hear.
It really wasn't that easy, and, you know, the reason that I took you through that example is because it was given to me,
Okay.
right? Alls I had to do was have a willingness, and then I could build a relationship from there. No matter how inadequate that was, I could start to build a relationship. This is mine. I call it the Great Interrupter.
The Great Interrupter. You boys hear that? The Great Interrupter. All
There's
right.
a lot of nouns in this book, different words for God. I call mine the Great Interrupter. It's mine. I don't give a shit what you think about it. I've built a relationship with this
That's your deity.
that has solved that has helped me solve that volcano of unmanageability by doing the steps. Because there are things in this book I do not want to do. There are, even today. I
There
don't
still
want
is.
to. Oh, me and the Great Interrupter fight. Yeah.
I love it.
But what happens when you build a relationship with somebody? You have a relationship, sometimes we argue,
Right.
sometimes we have heated
There's-
debate.
yeah.
It's no different than with my higher power, and it's evolved over time, but I had to have a starting point, and it had to be mine. Not somebody else's, not that man of the
Right.
cloth, not somebody, you know, I went to a Baptist church when I lived in West Central Illinois, and, you know, I loved the music.
Right,
There
right,
wasn't a
right.
message there. You know, I've been to my wife, she's a confirmed Catholic, and that's about as painful as standing in the garage and beating my nuts with a shovel, but
Whoa.
Mhm. But that
But
might
that's
work
not-
for someone else.
that's not for me.
Right.
That's not
right.
for me.
That's just not.
So what had come as sense, comfort, and ease by taking a few drinks has now
From men from a men's
been
meeting.
replaced by that relationship with a higher power. I now get that
from something else than
from
a
that
drink.
relationship.
So, I'm going to try to reword a question that was sent in was it you giving that man of the cloth all this power to hold you away from having a higher power, or throughout the years? I mean, you use that example.
Yeah.
Was that on you, and that falls on your shoulders for how you reacted to that and giving that situation the power you did?
Well, of course. Of course it did.
And did it hold? And it held you. I mean,
Of course it did.
Okay.
I needed a God of my understanding to be able to recover from a hopeless state of mind. This book asked me to do things that, left to my own devices, get me thirsty.
do you? All right. Tell me how. Your experience. Tell me how at that point of being willing. How does it grow from there? Is it just baby steps, or walk me through how this? A lot of people are waiting for me to say to you, well, "What was your big bang? What was that big, like, you know, you got the shivers and all of a sudden you knew God was real."
No, it was a learned variety.
It
for
was
me.
a s-
It was an awakening. It's no different than getting up in the morning, right? You get up in the morning, you get out of bed, you take a piss, you have a cup of coffee, you know, I mean, you just don't jump up and all of a sudden, you know, at least I don't, and I never have. I have to awake, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that relationship came to me with having to pray. This book asked me to do prayer work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm going to tell you, it was extremely uncomfortable for me to do that because I didn't know how to do it, right? But it's supposed to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to be uncommon if you don't do it. But I had to formulate that relationship on a continuing basis and build that relationship. And really what I did is I really didn't know how to pray, so I took the third step prayer. And
Take-
I
or
broke that,
what-
I broke that down word by word. God, I offer myself to thee. What does that mean? Great interrupter. When this book talks about God, I call it the great interrupter. I go back to that relationship. That's my starting point. That's the point in which nobody can take from me, like that man of the cloth tried to do.
Right. This is yours.
This is mine. This is exactly right.
And however you decide to
Which
decipher
means-
it,
Which means because I chose, I can't blame anything else.
there you go.
I
There you
can't
go.
blame anything else
Right.
because if you don't have, get a bigger God. Get a bigger one. If the one ain't working for you now, get a bigger one.
Was
get
that
to
you
choose.
that said that? Don't show me how big your problems are. What? How big my God is. There's a statement. I thought it was you shared about that. Whatever the case is. So you start formulating your belief, your higher power at this. I mean, how much sobriety do you have? What was your last celebration?
Oh, May 31st, 2005. I don't know, you do the math.
2005. So you're at 20 years, almost 18 years. 18 years. All 18 years. At 18 years ago, was that when you had a higher power?
That's when I started building a relationship with a higher power.
Okay.
Building a relationship, knowing God exists and having a relationship with God are two different things. Or you wouldn't have popes, priests, and bishops in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right. This is all spawned from me asking about what a big book study is. So, but that's how we do. We evolve our conversations too. And we put John on the curb for a little while.
It's John who?
AA Jesus.
AA Jesus McHugh.
I get fired up about this.
No, I know, and that's
It has saved my life.
there you go. There you
It
go.
has given me a rebirth and
Well, a child is father back, a wife her spouse back, a mother her son back, a friend. There's a lot. There's a whole lot. I know. I'm a product of this. You can't put a price on it.
Can't put
The
a
way I
price
see
on
it,
it.
you can't.
No, and it's my experience. I've been through this book well over 100 times. And
Right.
every single time, I have an experience. I work with 5 guys that have never been through it and 2 that have, and I've taken them through that book. And this book isn't for those 2 that have been through it. It's not about what they're willing to do. It's about what they're unwilling to do, and that is their problem. That's why we're going through it. I'm not going to tell them what they're unwilling to do. They're going to have the relationship
own,
with
yeah.
a higher power that they choose to make sure that they do it next time. I am not the arbiter of that. They will find that out, and they will have a God that will hold them accountable if they seek it.
If they seek it, it's on them.
It is.
So there's a few different things I don't want to skip over when you're talking about this, working with other guys.
I should sugarcoat it a little bit more.
No, not at all. You know that. So it's you. I know you've shared about this multiple times in our men's meeting without breaking the anonymity of what we say exactly. It was worded in a way of, and I've shared this on the show. You get a group of guys. I think it was Dave who said it too, because he can be a good asshole. He can be a good smart ass too. So can you. Oh, so can you. You know what? I love these old timers. But it was something about a couple guys who are taking other guys through the books. This sponsee's doing this and that, kind of whining about it. And I think it was Dave said, did you drink over it? How many times have you drank while taking a sponsee through a book? And I know it was a couple meetings ago that you referenced it in some form or another of when you hear about a guy, I think Armin was celebrating, And I've got a buddy who's been to our meeting who Armin's like his shiny, like, I can't believe that guy had that much time and now he just got a 3-year chip. It happens. And I think it was you that referenced, like, you hear about all these guys about their relapse if they make it back to the rooms. If they do. God willing, if they do. Their stories never sound like this. Well, I was taking all these guys through the book. I had all these too many sponsees and
I've never heard it. Not once. I'm going to too many meetings and sponsoring too many men. I went through the big book of alcoholics too many times. I have a God of my understanding that has solved my problem, and I drank. I've never heard that.
you can almost I've been here about 25% of the time. You have 30. I'm doing my numbers now. But it's typically the same. I started slowing down and going to meetings. I know I had no sponsees. It's usually typical stories. And it's not usually that big one. My son died. It's not usually those big ones. It's, I don't know. I got a flat tire that day and I had a drink. But everything else that preceded it. John, shut up. So,
I owe a lot of I owe a lot of what I think, feel, and believe to AA Jesus. I really do. He was there the first day that I showed up.
how much time do you
I've
have?
been to a lot of meetings.
Get on your mic close.
A lot of meetings. We fellowship together. We ride together. I puke on this man.
Yeah.
He
Well,
has-
what do you mean by puke on this man?
I tell him absolutely everything, whether he wants to hear it or not. And when he asks me how I'm doing, he really wants an answer.
Right.
And sometimes I don't like what he says,
But that's probably why he's your good friend.
but he doesn't give me what his opinion is. He gives me what his experience is. And
But that's what
I
helps
love
save
this man.
lives.
I love this man dearly. He saved my life. And
How'd you find these rooms, John?
Damn, I'm gonna cry. Holy shit.
What's that?
Uh,
What'd you get my card for? All right.
we got a commercial break here right now.
No, we don't. You're good.
No,
So,
I just
talk to us about.
I just want to read this first because
All right.
when John started talking, he said before he did all the 4 through 9, he had to do step 3, and this is the prayer that he does the 3rd step prayer, and he says he went through it word for word. And when you think of this prayer, this is exciting. Everyone just left the building.
Nobody left the building.
I get
Keep
to
going.
talk to me, and who else would I rather talk to? God, I offer myself to
Oh.
thee to build. No, just kidding. To build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. And here's what reminds me of John now, especially after tonight. Relieve me of the bondage of self. That's a big one there. That I may better do thy will. Take away I always think, take away my difficulties. That victory over them will bear witness to those I would help with thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. But may I do thy will always. But relieve me of the bondage of self. Every time I read that now, I'm going to be thinking about you. And, wow. Something's going on.
No, nothing's going on. So what is your recovery date?
June 30th, 1991.
Wow.
do that math.
Wow. I'm not going to do that math.
It's
But that's pretty
30
awesome.
years.
Yeah.
Almost 30.
Goodness gracious.
that's a good start, John.
Can we talk about time and recovery?
Yes.
This has been a little resentment of mine. So, people will say in meetings that time doesn't count. And then they'll say how many years they got. And I'm like, do you believe what you're saying? Or are you just saying, time doesn't count, but I got this many years. And I'm thinking, really? I think time does count. I think it matters. I remember when I had my first day of sobriety, my 30 days, my 60, 90. It all counted. It all matters because my life slowly changed. So for someone to say it doesn't count and then say how many years they got, it's like, give me a break.
John, he will call out a situation. I'll tell you right now. This just came up in our meeting, which I was talking to you guys about before this started. The podcast started. Was somebody said they said, why do we read to the wife, to the employer? Why do we read all these sections that don't apply to me?
Oh.
But it was a valid question. He was curious. Radio Tim was just curious about it. And other people, I think it was Dave, said, I've never been married, but we still go through this because there's ways to, whatever the case. Well, John spoke up. He said, what did you say about that? This goes hand in hand with what we're kind of talking about right
John
now.
might get mad at this, but I thought if people say they take people through the 164 pages, then take them through the 164
164.
pages. Don't say I'm not taking you through this. If you want to take them through the 103 pages, which is the 12 steps, then say that's what I do.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what I do.
because we're supposed to be
well-
honest, right?
That's what I do.
And that's what your point was.
And
But
the reason that I do that is because that's what was given to me by my sponsor.
there you go. That's what worked for, that's whatever the case is. I guess the reason I even brought this up was that's what John does. He sits in the cut, but that both these guys, when they speak, and this is a word that I did define a couple months ago when I used it on the show because I was using a lot of words I didn't know what they meant. But these two men are very poignant when they speak, very poignant. I get to say that.
You
'cause
just used a big word.
yeah. I use the word, I finally know what the definition is. So, but when they share, and that's why, and I've been enamored with you when you share all the time. I've told you, I've come up to you after, I'm like, I can't wait till you share in meetings. The first time I'm sidetracking, the first time I did SNL, the service commitment, I
Oh.
chaired it.
Facilitator.
I didn't know that, I find 5-minute speakers and readers. Well, the second they asked me, I run to John. John, will you be our speaker for SNL? And he's like, if you need me, I'll be there. Well, I'm all excited. And I go to Steve. I'm like, I got a speaker. He's like, yeah, we take care of the main speakers. I was just so stoked about getting these guys on. And that's why they're here today, though, is their experience, strength, and hope and what they get to share. And that's the reason John says McHugh is one of his friends is the same reason I surround myself with people like you. There's not a lot of co-signing going on. So your story starts in
There's not,
'91.
but there is empathy.
Oh yes,
There's empathy and compassion
yeah.
for the still suffering alcoholic because we've been there, right? There's a time,
Yeah.
There is a time and a place for, I don't even want to call it tough love. But I think you mentioned, you bring this stuff up and we know that if you're still suffering and have not recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body, and you give what your opinion is about a step that you've never done, you are spreading the disease and not the solution.
right.
So shut up.
Oh, I thought we were gonna get vulgar.
No, not.
I was told it 3 words. No, 4 words. It's 4 words. I've been told many a times. In early recovery.
Well, if I was to do this meeting, let me tell you what I think I'd do.
Right. And speaking on steps you haven't been through, you could potentially kill someone. I mean, a lot of Narcotics Anonymous meetings I go to, that's exactly how it's said. You can't draw a map to somewhere you haven't been. That's a good way of saying
And
it.
that's okay. I go to meetings like that too when I'm fishing. I mean, this part of the year is very, very, very dangerous for me. If I look past on my history, I get into trouble in the spring, right? I suffer from
Excitement's
post-traumatic stress, and usually I'm working with men to get through this tough time. And this year, I had nobody, and now I've got 7 guys that I'm working with. The great interrupter provides when I need them.
And those 7 men, and you having these sponsees,
They're saving my life.
there you go.
They saved my life.
there
every
you
single
go.
One of them. Every single one of them.
I tried to bring it
They
back
don't
to that.
understand it. They don't understand it until they start taking other people through. But they will. But they saved my life, which is what I need. I need another man. I need to work through this and have another experience like I did scores and scores and scores of times.
Well, and that was the big, the bright light over my head that went off is, I think it was Dave or someone that said that to another, I say old timer. It doesn't always mean old timer, but a sponsor. A couple of sponsors are crying about their sponsees, and one of them pointed out, well, have you drank over it? Have you even thought about drinking? You're bitching about these problems, but these are awesome problems to have. Your sponsee's not calling you back. You know what? You're not drinking over it. 91. You decide to walk in these rooms.
I'm not cooperating with you because
No, go ahead.
what I keep thinking about is John and I were in Sturgis, and
You can go to Sturgis and be sober?
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Have fun.
yeah, and we get up the next morning. You know, there's four of us, I think, and I see John. He goes, he gets he got 2 cups of coffee. He got one for Rick, and then I see him opening up the big book and reading, I think 85 through the end of the chapter. So
67, 88.
yeah, so
Upon
and I thought,
awakening.
this guy, that's why I love listening to you, because you have depth and weight, because you don't just say it, you do it, and you've been doing it for years. It's not a brand new thing. And I've been around you when horrible things have happened in your family, and you're on the edge, and yet, this is my belief, because of all the work he had done. Sometimes, you ever think I go to a meeting, why am I doing this? Is that, what a waste of time. But when the chips are down, it pays off.
That's those dividends.
And
That's the
I've seen him
insurance.
go through absolute hell. So
Yeah, but he's the guy that I lean on. I mean, he's the salt of an earth type of man, and I've seen him work. He does more inventory than anybody that I've ever met.
Thinks before he speaks. I know that.
He does.
A lot of thought goes in before he speaks. And let's wrap Papa's for some fellowship.
And every time we're together, regardless if we're out in Sturgis or wherever we're at, we're always not always talking program, but program is paramount in. I'm not talking recovery. We're in the program. We've recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body, and we are sober today. But we go through this program so we can build on that relationship that we chose in step 2, and John has helped me tremendously. I mean, on Thursday nights we'd go and we'd have a meeting after the meeting, and that was a puking meeting. This is where I mean, we just get it out, and he's somebody that I rely on, right? And
I remember going up to John after one meeting. It was one of the, I don't know how you did what you did, but you know what I'm talking about. And I come up to him after, we're outside together, he's having a cigarette. I go, "Are you okay?" He goes, "No, I'm not okay." So yeah, it's hard, it's a lot of effort, constant effort.
And when you can do that, especially in the stuff that's going on currently in a meeting of men, and show your vulnerability in the stuff that you're going through, and say that you aren't okay and that you need help, is I sat in the back of the room not doing that, and I can't do that anymore. I'm unwilling to carry that cross. You're gonna know what the hell's going on in my life.
You were one of the first men I heard say, "I'm hurting."
Yeah.
This was when you were going through I think 3 years ago or so. And it was meeting after the meeting. And we're sitting along that long wall there, and whatever. Someone said something, and I heard you. You're clear. No, I'm fucking hurting.
Yes.
And
And
we
here's why.
rallied.
And here's why. Yes.
Yes, and you said, "Here's why."
Yeah.
But the men around you, they're there for you.
Yes, they are.
That's where I try to, we get a lot of people listening who I know they're sitting there with the cocktail, not sure how to do this thing right. We get people who share this with people that have never tasted this program. I try to exude that as best I can
Whoa.
to people who don't. Sometimes we're the only piece of this program people are going to ever hear or taste or see or feel. It's examples like that, or going to Sturgis, or having fun, going to a concert, that there's life that's not just sitting in a meeting for that 1 hour a day, because there's still that 23 hours around that 1 hour we get to be a part of. How do you want to be part of that? Life gets to be fun nowadays. And I'm glad, I want you guys to kind of, I wanted to dig in deeper on you and your story. Yes, in 5 minutes. I wanted to go in further on your story, John, which we will after this little segment coming up. And I'm going to make you talk about some of your story. But John just celebrated.
He's the most open guy I've ever met.
Yeah, you got to bring a pry bar. John just celebrated
I've known him for 20 years. Eventually, I'll get to know him.
he just celebrated an anniversary. I got to buy him dinner for it too. This it was a 28-year anniversary. Now this, we'll take 5 minutes to talk about this if you're okay. We were at Papa's. As John was saying, we do this big book study. It's called Squad 20. You can't judge a book by its cover. Every Thursday night at 6:30 at the New Hope Alano in the big room 1 and 2. All men are welcome. With a desire to stop drinking, come on down. But everyone's invited to come to this thing we call fellowship. And we do fellowship at a place called Papa's. Or before the meeting out in the big common hall. And we were in there, and I think this last week, I don't even know how the conversation came up. You said it's my golden, or it's a golden birthday, or golden anniversary. And what was it? Tell me about it.
Oh, on April 28th, 1994, I had 3 years of sobriety. Everything's great. And I have I had a stroke.
Not mild.
39 years old, extremely attractive. Okay, a little bit of comedy there, and I have a stroke, and I was scared to death. But you know what? I did not drink.
Right.
But I was scared. I did a lot of other stuff I shouldn't have done, but
But you mean you lost half the feeling of your body? You weren't walking right, talking right. I mean, this wasn't just a cold. This was a pretty big deal, major medical deal.
yeah.
And this was a couple years into recovery after you changed your life around. You weren't ever. It was out of the blue, right?
Well, no. I have other addictions.
Okay.
Okay, listen up, everybody, because I wonder if there's anybody else out there that's like that. But at that point, I was had a work addiction, really. I was working constantly because I wanted to pay all my debts, because it says in the big book. I went to a meeting, and they talked about step 9, you got to pay your debts, and I thought, okay, I'll do it all right now. I'll have it done in a week. So all I did was work, and I think
That's the
that's what
alcoholic
made
mind.
me have the stroke. But who knows? The doctor had other opinions, but,
So you were working yourself extremely hard. Whatever
Bondage
the
of
case,
self.
that wasn't something you were ever expecting.
No.
39 years old, you have this stroke, and then you also had some other health stuff come up because of it since. I mean,
yeah, I've
seizures,
had
whatever.
seizures and stuff.
And
It's fun when you're with a girl. She doesn't know if she did it or.
if it happens at the right time, you never know.
Okay, Tim.
Well, sometimes I have to define it a little deeper.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
But that was it's something we sell. And the reason I brought it up was I think it was Rob or someone there who's no, it's the car salesman guy, Steve, or
Yeah.
is that his name? Steve. God, I feel like an ass. He's a great dude. He's got a car maybe a year or two. He's like, what? You're celebrating that? And it's like Charlie, I think, said it. We celebrate everything. The life we used to have to the life we get to live today. We celebrate everything. Yeah, it's been 28 years since I had a life-changing medical something that happened. It's the 28th, blah, blah, blah. It's a big deal. We celebrate everything, and that goes back to this fact I'm trying to get across to people is we live life now to its fullest. To a normal person, normie, or people that haven't dealt with what we've gone through or this disease, to them, it's not. There's nothing special about celebrating a stroke I had 28 years ago, or getting to go to a concert and not get wasted, or showing up for someone who's struggling. We have fun in recovery. That's part of this. We sit there and banter with that poor waitress.
That's funny you said that because
Come on.
with all the concerts I've been to, even when I was drinking, I have never drank at a concert because I know that if I did, I wouldn't be able to find my way out. I have never drank at a concert.
Really?
And I've been to Metallica, like all of them, and I just, no.
I don't think I've been to a concert I didn't drink at.
I've never drank at a concert.
So, Sturgis, you guys go to Sturgis? You've been to Sturgis in recovery? You go
Yep.
to shows, you go to concerts, you go out to hang out.
No, because I'm still I've been at a job for 34 years, and I've been working.
You're still a workaholic?
Yeah, until recently, until March of this year, they outlawed me to work weekends. So,
I mean, you have a couple kids, right? You have 2 daughters, I believe,
2 daughters, yep.
and like you're into this pro. Is this only your main meeting you go to? I mean, you go to the campfire meetings and stuff too, right?
Yeah, but I mean, they're all great. They're all great. Every meeting has value, but this one is my home group.
This is the home group. How would you become a member of your meeting? If you, dude, I want to call it my home group. What do I do?
Pay cash.
I was
Pay a
ready to say,
monthly fee.
talk to Jester.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it last week on the show. He was on here.
You could be a member of any group.
Okay.
Pledging to a club is totally different.
Right. So, just like this at the Alano here, and we're gonna have Dan J hop on before the night's over to explain to the audience about becoming a member at 2218. It's about the same across the board at all Alano clubs, but within the Alano clubs, there's squads, there's meetings, and you can be a pledging member on behalf of that meeting to that Alano or wherever, which just means you pay an amount. You're still welcome to show up. These meetings are free to go to.
Depending some are closed meetings, some are
yeah,
open meetings, stuff like that. But yeah, every place has something where you can be, and even if you can't be a member, you can always, because you can't afford to be the membership dues and stuff like that, you can do other things like service work, making coffee, saying hi to people. I mean, helping pitch in to chair meetings, stuff like that. There's so many different things that you can do in the different Alanos, or even if depending where your meeting is. Sometimes it's at a church. I mean, I went to a good one just this last week. That's another thing I did this last week, Tim. I spoke at the meeting for Jess.
That's right. At Tradition 5 on Monday nights.
I'm not exactly sure where that was,
Yeah,
but
it's
I,
off in
I,
Old Bowling
I
Golden
went
Valley.
there. I went there. So now we're going to take a quick break here and do some Timmy time.
With Timmy.
Timmy
As though you haven't heard my voice enough tonight. I was going to start dirty, but I'm not going to. What kind of a noise does a witch's vehicle make? Broom, broom. 2 guys walked into a bar. The third guy ducked. How do you get a country girl's attention? A tractor. Dad jokes, guys. These are dad jokes.
That one was funny.
All right. What do you call a pudgy psychic? A fortune teller.
Oh my.
All right, I got a real dirty one we'll finish this with. But tonight, all I'm going to talk about is being present. When we show up to meetings, hey, you heard me tell you, you're not alone. You don't have to be alone. We remind you every week you're loved. That it's on you to get outside yourself. It's on you to show up somewhere or to let the world know that you are struggling. It does kind of go with closed mouths, don't get fed situation, but you need to speak up when you're hurting. Being present is part of that. When I show up to a meeting, as we already shared about tonight, if there's something going on in my life and it's something that is weighing on me, I need to speak up about it. I need to be in the forefront of my recovery. You're not going to be able to do it for me. I'm not going to do your recovery for you. So when I show up, that's what I need to do is show up. When I'm present at meetings, when I'm present at fellowship, when I'm present for my family, friends, outside of recovery, these things that we do nowadays, it's life lessons. This program has helped me to grow the heck up. I was going to quote a guy from our meeting, but I'm trying to stay away from that F word. But to grow up, and that's what this has taught me to do. So that comes hand in hand with being present in life. Life's going to show up. You've heard our guests talk about it tonight. How do you want to be when these things show up? I have found for myself, my own recovery is being present. I've shared many a times about the passing of my brother, and what I was able to do was be present. I was able to be present for a mother who was grieving, for friends that were grieving. And selfishly, I got through that, and I say unscathed, but I made it through that very well. I didn't think about going back out. I got to be there for other people, and that was because I showed up for it. I was present. And those are rallying times, too. I mean, life, we've talked about this. Life is going to show up. It's life, and that's what happens. Now we've been given a set of tools to learn how to make it through that. And a good tool is showing up and being present. So, have you ever heard of a sex rock? It's just another fucking rock. All right, and that was my little tidbits with
Okay,
Timmy.
so before we get back to the guests, I'm going to have Dan come sit over here for a minute to just tell his thing.
No, here, right here.
So that way, Dan, come up here and tell everyone how they can become a member here at 2218. And the Ride for Recovery.
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, you guys. Really great to walk in and see the two Johns here.
John.
John. So, and they're not working the streets anymore. So, that's pretty good. And it is a safer place
we know.
out there because they're in here. I would say that, first off, when you think about each individual group that is a part of 2218 are independent of the Alano. The Alano is a board of trustees that's elected through the people that are a part of this establishment. We ought not be organized. You look at the traditions and know that, seventh tradition, first off, basically every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. And also, when you think about 2218 and the facility and it houses meetings, keeping the doors open is expensive. It's an old Washburn mansion and it's been here for 80 years. And definitely the repairs cost money as well as making sure we can keep the doors open. So that primary purpose of keeping the doors open for addicts and alcoholics to find a place of recovery is done through pledge paying. And when you make a pledge, I'd say, look it up. Look up what a pledge is. And, honestly, I pledged at 3 different clubs. My first club in Mankato, 2218, and then We'll Work for Recovery. I pledge at all of those places to help keep those doors open. And it doesn't mean that I have to be at any of those places. In fact, if I decide to move to Canada, I think my pledge is pretty firm here. So
Pledge, a solemn promise or undertaking. The conference ended with a joint pledge to limit pollution. Pledge. I think I might be saying the wrong definition.
but that's a much later one. But according to the first phrase of that is what
A
it
solemn
is.
promise or undertaking. Yep.
So, the pledge paying is through each group. They have squad leaders and treasurers and approach them or the front desk. And the pledge is $20 a month. We do have a first-time pledge paying member. If you're a first-time pledge paying member, $15 a month for the first 3 months, and then it'll go to the $20 a month. Plus, there has been a scholarship program that has been started, and you can also call in or go to the website, and you can find that scholarship program for pledging. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, guys. I really enjoyed this. I want to
Tell us also about the ride, if you
Oh,
don't
the
mind.
Ride for Recovery, and this is the 3rd annual, or 4th annual, yes. I was,
know because there's a huge poster over
right. So I'm like, it is the 4th, man, time flies, holy shit. The 4th annual Ride for Recovery is June 25th. It's $20 for a wristband, and I often say this, all the fundraising goes to the club to help keep the doors open, And a lot of people say, well, I might not be able to be available to go to the event or whatever. And I said, buy a wristband and hang it on your nightstand and say, I contributed to that and help keep the doors open. So you don't have to be a part of it at all, really. Honestly, just come and get a wristband. And honestly, you will be here, and if you are, you get to take advantage of the whole event. It's not about the ride, really. I want to really illustrate that it's about the event and being here at 2218. The ride is another one of the perks, and it's something that help get this off the ground, and wonderful contributors. I mean, I've known for life that motorcyclists are one of the greatest contributors to many things, cancer programs, whatever, and I'm very proud to say that motorcycling has been a part of my life. I want to mention Gopher State. I do a memorial ride, and that ride is now 35 years in the making. We continue to ride to Henderson from Gopher State and back, and it's a short, wonderful ride. It kind of takes up the middle of the day, and
What time do you
it's a
guys get
kickoff.
When are
11
kickstands
o'clock,
up?
and
11?
it's Saturday at 11 o'clock is the kickstands up. There's a 10 o'clock prayer and ride etiquette meeting for everyone in the ride, and it's a kickoff for the Ride for Recovery. And the last few years, I basically rented the parking lot and 2218's hospitality suite in COVID 2020 and 21, and we still rode to Henderson, so that was nice. So we had a mini Gopher State.
And then what, you guys go down to the ice cream?
Yeah, you guys go to ice
We go down to
cream?
Tootie's Sweet Treats. So, and Ruth sold it to her predecessor, or the gal actually that helped her do a lot of the work there. And now I'd called ahead. They're all ready for us. So I said, you never know, it could be 75 or 200. So,
We got road guards and everything.
yeah.
It's official.
So, absolutely, the road guard training, they're having another class. So anybody that's interested, get a hold of John Steffens or Neil Conover. And I have information, see me. My phone number is on some of the listings. Reach out to me and I can get you connected.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, you're
Well,
gonna have that
thank
conflict
you.
of attitude, right?
Oh, sure.
Stick around.
Yeah, stick around.
All right, now back to your regularly scheduled program. Time does fly. Wow. All right, boys. I believe you guys were presented with a couple questions in your text about this podcast. Maybe if you guys had a topic or two you wanted to bring up. Nope, not a big deal. It got revamped, I guess, since it touched my hands to hers to you guys. So before I go into, I got about 3 questions that were sent in personally, and before I do that, is there any topics you guys would like to bring up or talk about right now before we get into some questions?
I don't have any.
Yeah, I do. I like what John said about his debits becoming credits. And I've had that happen, like when my mother died, it was a giant Catholic church. Think of me going in front of church speaking to people
When was this?
the way I am. This was in 2001, I think. And I walked in that church and I felt at home. It was bizarre. And then we got into planning her funeral, and, I had a big, tough brother, and nobody wanted to speak.
Really?
And I'm sitting there, and they said, well, we'll have one of our cousins speak. I said, no, I'll speak.
Yeah. For your mom?
And my awesome daughters, they were, I got up there, I was crying my eyes out, but luckily I wrote everything down so I could say it. And it turned out so good. They wanted me to do the one when my brother died and when my sister died. So hopefully I'm done with this
I
funeral.
thought you were
thing,
going
but
to say
it's-
the 4 o'clock funeral that had nothing to do with you.
I'm
but-
just so grateful for AA because I never would have done that ever. You know, like John talks about puking. I mean, get up and talk about your mom. Speaking of moms,
Yeah, we have Mrs. John in the house tonight,
we have
Mrs. B.
John.
I'm not
I
going
don't know
to
how
put
to
your
say
name
it
out there.
properly, but
Support. We have support in the house. Family.
But your mom is who's more important than your mom? And
I
you know,
agree.
so that could lead to something else.
So you
thinking.
get to be present at these events nowadays, especially with a major situation like that.
Yeah, it's like I love what it was a debit that was now a credit. I mean, I'd be a big mouth, loud, drunk,
Right.
and now here I am in front of a church,
Puking
know.
on them.
yeah,
Well,
spuking. Yeah.
Being able to speak from the heart and be there for them.
Spuking. We got to use that one again.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I agree with you. The debits into credits, I put that in the same category. Pulling insurance out on your recovery. You get a stockpile of sponsees. That's pulling insurance out on your recovery. Staying connected, showing up for commitments, taking commitments, being a person. Just pulling out insurance on yourself is what you're doing. These are huge things for my recovery today. It is, and I learned that from what they call our predecessors.
What are those?
For me, it was someone who's doing something with a smile on their face. They're genuinely happy. That's what I want. They talk about, find a sponsor with something that has something you want. Early recovery, I thought it was, I asked a guy who owned a business and had a brand new truck and this and that. And you know what? He's still my sponsor today, but it was for all the wrong reasons at the beginning. Whatever. I understand today what that means. I mean, you can go to a meeting 2 times. You can pretty much tell. You can see the guys who are there that are doing the deal. They're happy. They're joyous. They're free. These things we talk about, but you can see it.
And I did the complete opposite.
Right? We all learn on our own path. But John said it earlier too. Is you got to have your own experience. I can't have Elena's experience. I can't have John's. But by God, I wanted it. When I came in these rooms, I saw these other things. I didn't realize that those promises. I didn't understand the promises to what I now understand today. Like John said, we grow over time. The vision of what I saw, a group of words, what they meant to me in early recovery, mean 180 degrees different today. But whatever, that's not we're not going down that road.
What is the most important thing you drive home to the sponsee?
What's the most important thing that I make sure my sponsee knows? What is it?
To rely on the higher power of your understanding.
To rely on their higher power, their understanding. You touched on that right away.
It's a common solution.
Common solution. So we have a question that always comes up, and we're going to start with Quiet John. And it doesn't have to be in early recovery. What's been consistently, because now I can say consistently, you guys have double digits. What's been a consistent hurdle in your recovery? Whether it isn't anymore, that you remember being a hurdle for you to keep at this and keep doing this the way you wanted to do this. What's been a hurdle in your recovery?
Resentment.
Resentment. What do you mean? No one-word answers on my podcast. And I guess here's the second part of that. How did you overcome that hurdle?
Well, it's in the book.
So this is where I do lovely banter until he gets it right. But I have a piece of crust in my mouth, so it sounds like
Well, why'd
junk.
you do that?
I don't know. I don't know where my friend next to you has his book with him. If you want to
Yeah.
use his book, I could tell another dirty dad joke.
No, we don't want to hear dirty
no, we
dad
won't.
jokes.
So you know what? You look that up, John. What has been a hurdle? And McHugh, we find that because I want your answer. What's been a hurdle in your recovery that either you figured out how to overcome it, or it's a hurdle in your recovery?
Reconciling my higher power's will with mine.
What? Explain. I don't know what that means.
Because John will is different than the great interrupters will,
Okay.
even to this day. And that conversation that we have and that relationship that we have sometimes is tenuous at best. Because I still want to do what I want to do. And Dave says it pretty well in our meeting, you know, you're gonna be taken to the spiritual woodshed.
Yeah, he does. Yep.
You know, and usually, you know, that reconciliation comes from going to that spiritual woodshed. And, you know, from day one, because of this book begs us to lay aside prejudice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those old, icy intellectual mountains, right, that Bill talked about in his story. That still is the number one thing that I have to work on, that I have to make sure that I do as much as I possibly can as reconcile my will with my higher power.
What does that look like? Does that mean you know deep down it should be this way, but you feel a different way? Or what does that look? What do you mean? How I'm trying to ask this. Explain that more in depth. When you say your will,
My morning looks like this. I constructively review my day,
okay,
right? And I never did that before, right? There are things that I know that I have to do that are going to occur, right? So I kind of review that, you know, how am I going to show up, right? And I ask my higher power to be there with me and in that plan, instead of just doing it
willy-nilly with John.
just showing up, right? So at least I have that, you know, some people read Facebook. I don't do that, right? Some people do some other things. I don't care what you do. I have to do that.
Yours. Yep.
That's mine, and that's what I do. And, you know, throughout the day, I try and take time to just breathe, right? And then at night, I do exactly what the book says, right? I do my review. And I reconcile where I showed up and where God wants to put me someplace else. And then I know whether or not I've got to tell somebody about it.
So
or
you're
if I
doing
have
this
an
on,
event-
at the end of your night, your 10-step stuff.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Okay. And that's
And
still
through that, I'm still doing 11. I'm praying and I'm meditating. So,
right.
You know, I take the suggestions out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and
And that successfully has worked for you
yes,
now.
yeah.
Yes.
That helps me reconcile my will with my higher power. It's
And-
a constant conflict.
It's a daily reprieve.
It's a constant conflict.
Daily reprieve. And
Yeah.
what he just expressed is the difference between getting it and doing it.
Getting it and doing it. There you go. But and you know what, John? Anyone listening, it didn't just click. That he's worked at it. You heard 20 years. 20 years. It's not. Some people. Everyone has their own experience and their own journey.
Well, I depend on it today. Early
Yeah.
on, it wasn't something that I could depend on. It's something that I had to work in. I had to believe that it would happen. I had to take the action, and through that action, I had an experience, and with that experience, I started to have faith. And I continue to keep doing that over and over and over again until I can depend on the process to be able to reconcile my will with my higher power. I depend on it today.
So an early little side subpart to that question is early recovery when doing this. If you would be struggling with it or didn't understand it, what'd you do? Did you reach out to, or what did you do? How did you?
I talked to my sponsor, I talked
yeah.
to John, I talked to everybody else.
So utilize the connections that you've made in this program.
Oh, I would just, I call it puking. I would absolutely puke all over everybody,
Yeah.
right? And they would look at me and says, yeah, you're early. It's supposed to be this way. Get over yourself. Keep trying. Keep
Get over
seeking.
yourself. That's one that I,
seeking.
yeah, well,
Keep seeking. It's not a forever thing.
But
it's
you know-
a for now thing. It's not a forever thing if you continue to seek.
willing. Got to be willing.
Common solution.
John, what's a big hurdle that you had, you've overcome, that you deal with today, or maybe it's something out of the book, or he was being a smart ass. He was getting her down.
I just want to sidetrack a little.
Yeah.
So think of a freight train going down, 100 miles an hour, and the chain, the train's shaking and it's ready to go off the track. And the conductor turns and looks at this John next to me, which I've done, and I say, I can't get this train to stop, and I got all these resentments and all this weights. And you know what John has said to me, to my face? Sounds like that's something you need to talk to your higher power about. Oh, talk about anger. So,
Well, do you feel like as I always push this off onto being an addict or an alcoholic? Were you looking for that quick, easy answer, quick fix? I mean, is that just
right.
That's kind of where that goes. All right, now hurdle time. What's been a big hurdle or a hiccup?
Yeah,
or,
resentments and old stuff, new stuff, and in the big book it talks about things that, what is the word there? They're not necessarily real or imagined.
Fancied.
fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a lot of stuff I just make up. And I figure, oh yeah, I'm gonna get mad about this now, and I've just made it up. I don't even know if there's any truth to it.
You created a story in your head
So yeah,
or what have you.
and John's right. I do a lot of inventories because, but what I've been doing lately is, it's in that story. Is it called Bondage of Self? In the last story, I think,
In the big
about
book.
where you pray for somebody for 14 days. So I've been doing that.
And you can pray for yourself too, but
Every week there's like 2 or 3 people, because the inventory does the job, but this kind of puts a little icing on the cake. Like,
I like that. That it does. I like that. It puts my icing on the cake. Okay.
That used to be my biggest pet peeve, is when my sponsor would tell me to pray for somebody. And now I do it all the time. Just like, you just need to pray for them. I don't want to pray.
Well, here's the
Like-
kicker: is my sponsor said it to me, and it was really, for me now looking back. For me, the growth wasn't there. It was too early to hear it. But it intrigued me to want to learn more about this program. And Tony talked with me about this. You want to talk about growth and watching someone transform? Tony M is all right. Yeah. But Jimmy just said this. Now we're in a program that we're going to learn to pray for that. We'll say that murderer or someone that I think he used a really grim example. Someone killed my mom. I'm gonna have to learn how to pray for that guy. Pray to forgive him. I think my sponsor used something even darker or something, but this program, and I don't want to say it out of context because someone who's not familiar with this could have a situation like you had with the man of the cloth. They're hearing me because when I heard this with 2 months on my belt, and he said, "Well, if someone rapes your niece, you're gonna have to forgive that man." I do, and my wheels started turning already.
It's hard to reconcile your will with your higher powers.
No,
Yeah.
no. He also said something that it was a blur at the time, and now I heard he said, "Well, how free do you want to be?" And that's what it was. How long do I want to give this situation that kind of power that will hinder my growth, hinder my life, my happiness, There's a lot in between that, but it's things that this program can walk hand in hand with you through situations that you thought that used to baffle us.
Yeah, Tony M is a guy that asked me to sponsor him, and I took him through the book.
Mhm.
What's absolutely amazing to me is to see the grand sponsees and how they have saved his life, and how that works and works and works.
I love that man. I love you want to talk about poignant. He's really solid before he shares.
The only man that ever brought in charts and graphs for a 4-step.
Yes. And he's the man that I've shared about in this show multiple times who, like a lot of people say the example, he is the one who said, "I'm going to do this to prove you it doesn't work. I'm going to thoroughly finally go through this and show you it doesn't work." And what happened? He gave it his all, went through it, and he's living a freer life and a happier life. Father to 2 children, husband to a wife. I mean, Sure, life still shows up. He still deals with things, but he's got tools in that toolbox, and you're right. The graphs, yeah, he'll be on here too.
Good.
I want it to be a sponsee thing, but I think that might do much to your ego. I get you on for a third time. Well,
Well, you should ask him to bring on one of his funds.
yes. And he's also one of the guys I've shared about. He was one of the first guys in recovery who confided into me, and what that did for me to have another man confide into me. Forget about what the topic was, but just to have that weight of someone, the trust involved there, to be there for another, it did a lot. It was the first time in a long time in my life that someone counted on me for what I had to offer.
It's intimacy, into me you see.
Yes,
It's
into me
intimacy.
you see. Yes.
You know, and it's not intimacy in a sexual context. It's we get together and we're intimate with each other because we show ourselves
True.
to the bone,
Yeah.
right? And you know, it's something that you can't miss.
No, and you can't fake.
You can't fake.
You can't
it,
fake
no.
it. You can't manifest that. You do that. So, newcomers, we're gonna move. Jeez, time goes too quick, boys.
Don't even pay attention to the clock.
We kind of have to. We got.
Just keep going.
We got elder statesmen who get tired, and no, I'm joking.
Well, I'm sorry that you get tired. Let's move on to the
See how she
newcomer.
turned that on? All right. What is your? Let me just say it the right way. When newcomers walk in the door, John, AA Jesus, how do you interact with newcomers? What do you do? Is there a process for you? Do you have a?
I'm not the best, to be honest. I'm one of those guys that doesn't say hi to everybody. So
Okay, no, and that, hey,
but the other night, it was a couple Saturday nights ago. I sat next to a guy, never seen him in the club, and I just started talking, just general discussion about all kinds of stuff. And man, this guy was like really interesting. And then as we got closer to the meeting, he started talking about, what was going on as far as
the reason he's there.
the reason he's there. So that was really cool. So now when I see him, it's like, we know each other. I can say hi to him. But yeah, I am not the shining example of AA when new people come in. So
Oh, shit, shouldn't I ask you? No.
Oh my gosh.
Mr. B.
What about you?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's that?
Newcomers, how do we address them? What do we do? Do we go out of our way, shake their ba? Is there a method you have when it comes to newcomers? What do you do, or what suggestions do you have?
Well, we go to a big book study, and I offer a solution that has depth and weight.
Meaning,
Meaning that if I am not there for the people with 44 years. I am not there for the people with 30. I'm not there for them. They've already had an experience. They're not suffering from a hopeless state of mind and body. I'm there for that one person
who's hanging on by his fingertips.
that is suffering from the bondage of self that I once did, that is sitting on the fence, that has tried this thing over and over and over again and failed miserably, looking for that hope. And that message that is going to carry depth and weight usually ends up in a handshake.
It's simple as that sometimes.
It's simple as that. That's exactly right.
If I want to dive down that too with you guys. It's enough to say I want you back for that, but could it have been a single entity that could have got you over that hump? Like we're talking about right now, a newcomer coming through the door, a simple handshake or talking to him, or you were struggling for 20 years. Was it someone else? Was it was it someone that could have? You see where I'm asking? Do you follow what I'm asking?
Yeah, I do. And,
Was there a set of words that could have magically been said to you? It was on who?
when I was finally done and I tried everything humanly possible, I was going through treatment at the time, living at my mom's house, and I went to a place that I knew that there was recovery because my mother sobered up there. I knew that there was recovery there, and I knew people, so I did, and I went to New Hope, and we were still in
The Yellow House?
the Yellow House. That's exactly right.
I've heard stories.
And I went to 3 meetings a night, and I knew that I needed a sponsor. And I sat in many, many meetings until this man walked in and offered a message that carried depth and weight, something that I hadn't heard before. And it piqued my interest.
So
Now, he didn't shake my hand, he didn't come up to me. What he offered was a message that carried depth and weight that piqued my interest. That there was something different that I hadn't heard before, and that was a message of recovery.
he gave
So
you
after that, I
taste.
went up to him, and I said, well, okay, well, call me, here's my number, if you wanna go through the book. And over a period of time, I worked up the courage to say, yes, I am now ready.
Is that who we all know? Same
Yeah.
guy? Yeah.
Yep.
That man, I love looking at just open the face of your book to show her this is what I love about. Look at this. They have him sign. That's
Who signed that?
Sponsees.
What? Really?
Yeah, I love looking at Bob's yearbook. I call it a yearbook. I love looking at these guys' books. It's life saves. To me, I can go to tears just with the thoughts of what that really is.
I don't go anywhere without a big book. It's always with me, no matter
Mm-hmm.
where I'm at. Kind of like my toothpick. It always goes.
He's a toothpicker. I love it. I love it. I love these guys. Magically need more time. Unfortunately, this is that time of the show that we got to start kind of wrapping. We got a lot of heads in the house tonight. I would have liked to drag Mom on the mic, but we're gonna hear from her for just a second when we do gratitude. Maybe if I can pill you
So
over.
you said your mom's in recovery.
Oh, yeah.
How long does mom have?
Well, let's just hold on a second, and we're gonna get into what are we grateful for.
Yep.
And
Okay.
It is date night with my mother tonight. And
Oh.
I asked her to come with me, and this is where it all began, literally. I'm not gonna have her talk about that, but
Here at 2218.
no.
Oh.
My mother sobered up at New Hope, Alano, at the
Little Yellow House.
Little Yellow House.
Yep.
I was first introduced to New Hope, Alano when I was 12, 13 years old. And she was going to the Yellow House to get sober, and I went down to Alateen.
Alateen.
And I just like, you guys are absolutely retarded,
Yeah.
I didn't want anything to do with that, right? But that was my first experience with that. And, this is a woman that has shown me unconditional love from day one. And, that is what I am grateful for. And, she doesn't go to a lot of meetings, and she doesn't have to. But what I'm grateful for is to be able to give my mother on this podcast a 38-year medallion.
Woo!
Mom, will you come sit here for a sec? No, this mic's better, John. This one's. Yeah, please, if you don't mind, please. This is the gifts of recovery here. Yeah. Yeah, all right.
For those that can't see this, they're just giving each other a quick hug.
So yeah, John's presenting his mom with the chip, and he just shared about how their journey started. We're gonna get Mom on the show, and she's gonna share a little bit too. So I didn't know about this, and these are the gifts we talk about. Come on down,
Absolutely.
Mama. If you don't mind, just go ahead. Tell us about, how did you do it? What's your name? How'd you do it? I think that's what we said.
Her name's Mom.
Her name is Mom.
My name is Leslie. I'm an alcoholic, and I did it one day at a time.
Yes.
Atta girl.
It's simple. So,
And
go ahead.
every day is a recovery day. And nobody's going to tell you that it's easy. But I love the program. I love what it does for families. And with John being the brilliant son of mine that he is, I believe our family has finally put I'm going to say stop to the disease in our family. None of my grandkids have seen alcoholism active, and they're all happy and healthy. And all I can say is hang in there. Just walk in the door. That's what I did, scared to death in 1983.
You boys weren't even thought of yet.
So there's hope. There's happiness.
Love you, Mom.
And I love everybody in recovery.
Well, congratulations, Leslie. That's huge. If you, we'll start with you. At the end of our shows, every time we go around, we just say, hey, what have you been grateful for this week, today, this year, whatever. What have you been grateful for? And congratulations.
I'm grateful for a new day. I'm grateful for my son who is trying to sponsor me again.
That is good.
And like I said earlier,
Funny how roles reverse.
yes, it is. Yes, I haven't been to too many meetings lately. Life gets in the way, but coming back. And I'm not going to say that it's easy again to walk in the door. You know, I mean, obviously since 1983, there's new faces, new people, new situations. So, yeah, and I'm grateful for my recovery and the family.
Thank you. All right, Dan, what are you grateful for?
Dan, your batter's up.
Come on, Dan.
Very grateful for today and the blessing and the grace of, really, on Awakening, I start out there, I go through page 88, I go back to the 10th step, 84 and 5, and I read daily reflections and wherever that leads me, and it puts my thoughts on a different plane. And when my morbid reflection hotline rings, they help me pull my head out of my you-know-what, and I'm trying to help them, and that saves the day, and staying connected definitely has been a great gift, and I'm very, very grateful for the newcomers walking through these doors. And a lot of people say, about the importance, there's equal importance in all areas of every day, no matter how long we've been doing this. The honest truth is that newcomer would have nothing to come to if it wasn't the people that really stayed and started to apply these principles in their every affair. Meeting makers don't always make it. You stay in recovery because you live by principles. The principles of your life are what guide you, and that's where you drew your ideals and those devotions. And the thing is in that inventory is a continuum. It's a gift. So the fluid motion of all the steps, honesty, hope, faith, courage, humility, brotherly love, justice, as we go down those are one day at a time, daily reprieve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
John, what are you grateful for?
Actually, that pizza, it was fantastic. I ate the whole piece, even the crust.
Well, there's more. All right, Ryan.
That's your grateful?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I could get,
Can be. Whatever you want.
I talk so much tonight, it's time to shut up.
Oh my gosh. All right, Ryan, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for people in my life that actually care about me, and Alan knows that are open on the weekend and have fun things to do. Because sometimes it just sucks sitting at home by yourself. So
Yeah, it does.
come up here tomorrow and volunteer if you get bored. 'Cause that's what I'm going to do tomorrow.
All right.
Elena, what are
right.
you grateful for?
What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for so many things. Today I'm just grateful to be here. This was a really good show tonight. So I'm just gonna say I'm grateful to be here. I'm always grateful. Matt, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for my friends, my family, my recovery family that were able to help me out today and help me get my car back today. So I'm really grateful again to have my car back and having the friends that really loan me some money to do that. So my quote for this week is, "What we choose to do in each moment defines where we are going in our life."
Repeat it. Every second counts.
What we choose to do in each moment defines where we're going in our life.
Nice. Thank you, Matt.
Mike, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful to have my truck back after 6 months being in the shop.
That big white one?
Yes,
Beautiful truck. That's what you're grateful for.
that's what I'm grateful for.
We get to be grateful for whatever comes about. So, John B., talk to us tonight. What?
I already said what I'm grateful for, and she's sitting over there, and I gave her 38 years.
That is a huge gratitude piece.
Well, what about you, Tim?
You know, some of my thunder got taken because another mother's in the house. But weekly, I do make it clear to my audience. John said just about everything. You know, the bridges that I've learned how to light on fire and burn down. A mother's love, put it out. She's been there for me thick and thin. I was that one who just couldn't do no wrong in her eyes, even when she knew I was doing wrong. And yeah, in my illness, I took advantage of those situations. But I'm grateful for family. I'm grateful for my non-blood family, we call it. These guys that you hear on the podcast, the ones I talk about in Squad 20, the connections I've made, and I preach to you guys about utilizing those connections. I'm grateful for all that type of stuff. My recovery, first and foremost, as always, I talk about. So there's lots of things that I am grateful for, and I share them on here with you guys. I'm grateful for this podcast. I don't talk about that enough, but I truly am. So, again,
Absolutely.
tomorrow, come on down to the club. Volunteer your time. Help clean up. What is the times on that? When are we starting the cleanup?
Well, yeah, 11, come early, but, and especially for the volunteer stuff.
Yeah, so early. Come on down by 11 o'clock-ish. Just come on down. Make this club your club. Make this show your show. You got ideas? You want to see this show go in a certain direction, or start talking about other things, or you want to be on the show, whatever the case is, just reach out. We've all put our numbers up there. We've got Gopher State coming up. The Ride for Recovery is coming up. Tons of things to do in recovery every Thursday night. They go bowling, Blainbrook.
There's so much stuff to do in recovery right now. If you want to know about activities or anything that's going on, you can reach out to myself or my friend Ryan here, because we can give you a list of different things that you can do in recovery
Yes.
throughout the entire summer.
Yes. Now, and if you have ideas about what you want to do, link up. We got some camping stuff coming up. We got fishing events coming up. Tons of stuff. Heading south towards east, wherever.
And even if it's not recovery based, sometimes there's just groups of people in fellowship that get
Yes.
together and do things. I know of some kayaking things coming up. I know of people that set up rides when it's nice, that they try to get like 20, 30 people just to go on rides. There's so many different
Yes.
things that you can go and do. There's game nights that we do, bonfires. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of sober fun that we can have.
Awesome. Thank you. And you know what? Ryan put it up here, and I spoke about it earlier. You know what? If you need to, you just reach out. Please reach out. You're worth it. Don't cheat yourself out of happiness or something good. It's there for the taking. You are worthy. You are worth it. You are loved. Please reach out if you're struggling. We've put
Yes.
links up on here for 2218. If you're able to financially donate to this club, please do. It could always use some financial help. But then again, like I said, if you want to come down, volunteer your time, that could be used too. As always, we're grateful for you. You are loved. Until next week, we do have...
So don't forget, in a few weeks, we're going to have Rick and Jesse back on with Step 5.
Yep.
And next week, we have it lined up where my friend Todd
is coming.
Todd F.,
Todd F.
is coming next week, and a possible another guest.
Yep.
So-
Oh, and stay tuned. We got Damone coming back on the show too.
and we
in
got
a few
Damone
weeks.
coming on in a few weeks,
Yeah,
too.
we got a great docket.
And then
coming
we
up
got
this
Gopher
summer.
State, which we're
Yes.
going to be broadcasting
Oh,
from Gopher State.
100%. I got the verification. Tad and myself and Elena, we will be running the show from Gopher State. One way or another, we're going to be set up in one of the suites, and we'll be plucking people right out of the audience. So if you want to be on the show during Gopher, get a hold of us. We'll get you on the show.
And we're going to try to get as many people as possible, so we'll just pull somebody on for like 5 minutes. or
Yeah, just
so.
like we did on Pride Week.
Yep.
So perfect. Again, you're loved. Stay tuned. We'll see you next week. Thank you again.